Hey there friends, it's Codiak here, welcome back to Legacy Gaming and welcome to Elden Ring. Today we're bringing you a boss guide for Margit the Fell Omen. This is the first major story boss you'll encounter in Elden Ring, and although we won't show any of the cinematics, I have to warn you, there will be some gameplay spoilers. Margit the Fell Omen is a relatively straightforward boss. The moveset isn't expansive, but it's the way the boss combines moves together that makes him challenging. Through a combination of physical and ethereal attacks, Margit will keep you off balance the entire fight. The boss will also use verticality to break your concentration and attempt to trip you up. As always, we'll break down every major ability, but first, the location. To reach Margit the Fell Omen, you need to head towards Stormvale Castle. As you begin to ascend Storm Hill, you'll fight a number of lesser minions along the way, all attempting to stop you from reaching your destination. The final challenge awaiting you just outside the castle proper is Margit, your last hurdle before you enter the next chapter of your adventure. Margit's first core ability is a jump slam combination. The boss will leap into the air, suspended almost, before crashing down with his staff. This is the first of a number of abilities that will break your horizontal plane and attempt to mess with your fight cadence, and the delay before he crashes down is important to learn. The boss's second core ability is a charge followed by a two-swing combination. After a substantial windup, the boss will raise his staff and charge towards the player. When he reaches the player, he'll swing his staff in a two-strike pattern. Margit also has a number of basic abilities. The first is a sweeping strike. This is a simple frontal attack, but as we've talked about before, the most basic attacks are sometimes the ones that trip you up the most. In the same vein is a basic forehand swing that the boss will often combine with a chop. This is slightly different than the sweeping strike that impacts roughly the same area. Margit also employs a basic uppercut. Swinging his staff low to high, this is a direct counter to a player that stands in melee range for too long. Keep in mind this one has a deceiving range to it. Oftentimes you'll deal damage to Margit from behind. When you're attacking from the back, watch out for his tail, as this has the ability to swing around for a basic sweeping attack. As always, get in a few hits and then get out. The final basic ability is actually that chop attack from before, but elevated substantially. While we only saw it a few times during our attempts, we know that the boss can employ this huge chopping attack which has extended range. Before we get into the cooler abilities in the fight, I also want to mention that the boss can use a basic retreat after a number of his abilities to create space between him and the player. Margit also has the ability to summon ethereal weapons, which I believe are the highlight of the fight. The first are ethereal daggers that he'll conjure out of thin air and throw at the player. Multiple daggers are summoned and then thrown in quick succession. This can often be followed up by any of his gap-closing abilities, and he's notorious for starting the fight right out of the gate with these. The boss can also summon an ethereal hammer once his health drops below the halfway mark. This ability is telegraphed for a long time before the actual animation happens. You'll see the hammer being summoned, and then after a decent delay, the boss will jump into the air, closing the gap and slamming down at the player's location. This is another ability that breaks the horizontal plane, attempting to trip you up. The final ability occurs when Margit summons ethereal swords, another ability that shows up after the halfway mark. This often happens in melee range, where the boss will call the swords and then initiate a two-strike combo, finishing with a staff stab. This is one of the coolest abilities in the fight, but also the most complicated to avoid. The biggest tip we can give you when it comes to defeating the boss is waiting for that jump slam combination. There is a huge window after that attack that allows the player to deal damage to Margit. You just have to remember about the tail. It's worth waiting for this ability just because the damage window is so clear-cut and easy to exploit. If you need to heal, I would recommend waiting for the boss to rush at you. The momentum will carry him through the attack and give you a small window to recover your health and reposition. I wouldn't recommend chasing him after this attack, as by the time you'll reach him, he'll most likely recover and hit you with his next attack. If you're feeling bold, you can also counter some of his abilities. It does take 2 counters to break his stance, but as always, we prefer to dodge and find those damage windows to chip away at the boss's health. Although we didn't do it in our kill, you can also make use of any of the summons within the game. These are great distractions across the board no matter what fight you're engaging in, and can be a valuable tool to more casual players that are looking for a bit of an aid. Take this fight slow, internalizing one mechanic at a time. The boss doesn't pressure you and doesn't really push the pace of the encounter, so you have all the time in the world to reposition, get your bearings, and figure out each ability as it comes at you. With a little patience, determination, and some practice, the first major story boss within Elden Ring will crumble. For defeating Margit the Fell Omen, you'll receive the Talisman Pouch. This is a powerful item that increases your talisman equipment slots. These are charms you find throughout the world that offer passive gameplay bonuses, both offensive and defensive. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of how to defeat Margit the Fell Omen. As always, our goal here at Legacy Gaming is to bring you guides that get straight to the point so you can get back to the action. And if you appreciate that, we'd appreciate your support. Hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing for more Elden Ring boss guides and more in your feeds. Of course, if you still have questions, you can join us on Discord. Our community just passed 20,000 members, and with a small section dedicated just for Elden Ring, there's always someone around to help out and answer questions. Check out the link below to join today. Finally, if you like everything we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us even more, you can do so by becoming a member. For just a couple bucks, you're helping Livid and I achieve our dreams of becoming full-time content creators. Check out the join button below to learn more. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.